two opposing coalitions in the Middle East now define a rivalry that threatens to tear the region apart. On the one side, Iran and its network of state and non-state actors. On the other, a counterfront of traditional Western allies centered on Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel. For at least the past decade, the rivalry between Riyadh and Tehran has been one of the defining characteristics of the region, played out through a series of proxy conflicts. Across Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Lebanon and beyond, the fault line between the two coalitions has become the axis on which regional politics turn. As regional battlefights now become more numerous and interlinked, there is a growing risk that a localized spike will set off a direct interstate conflagration that engulfs the wider region. ECFR's new Battlelines project unpacks this dangerous fault line. It maps Iran's coalition of allies, regional influence, and the counter-coalition that has formed to oppose them. Tehran has cultivated a network of state and non-state allies that now find themselves in the ascendancy right across the region. In Iraq, the political class broadly aligns with Tehran, as do the militia forces who led the fight against ISIS and are dominant on the ground. In Lebanon, Iran's close ally Hezbollah dominates the political and military spheres, effectively holding veto power over state decision-making. In Syria, the popular uprising against Bashar al-Assad led the Iranians to increase their support for the regime, and they now play a significant on-the-ground role across the country. Finally, Saudi-led military coalition efforts targeting the Houthis in Yemen have created new openings for Iran to deepen its influence in the country.
Iran is driven by a number of factors on its regional policy. First, its security on its borders, vis-à-vis both state actors such as the United States and Israel and Saudi Arabia, but also non-state actors such as extremist groups that border it in Iraq, in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. Secondly, Iran is driven by wanting a political seat at the table in terms of shaping the regional order for the next 50 years to come. And finally, Iran is also motivated by gaining leverage against one of its main foes in the region, which is the United States.
Iran's regional rivals view its growing influence as an acute challenge. For Saudi Arabia and the UAE, Tehran poses a perceived threat to both their strategic regional position and their domestic stability. Riyadh views Iran's support for Shia groups in Yemen, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia's eastern province as a direct threat to its interests. Israel sees the growing presence of Iranian-affiliated groups near its northern borders, first in Lebanon and now in Syria, as its greatest strategic threat. It is also deeply opposed to Tehran's nuclear and ballistic missile ambitions, which it views in potentially existential terms. Israel has used the anti-Iran coalition to greatly strengthen its ties with Gulf states, reshaping the regional political landscape. The US, meanwhile, has been a key force encouraging this hate and anti-Iran position. President Trump has made countering Iran the rhetorical centerpiece of its regional strategy. With US backing, these states are now intent on squeezing out Iran's influence in the region.
When it comes to Israeli and Gulf calculations, they're very much still focused on their respective immediate neighborhoods. And we don't see evidence of a sort of broader tactical cooperation on the ground. There's also questions about US policy and how determined the Americans are to actually continue to put boots on the ground to challenge the Iranians. However, I think where the anti-Iran axis is much more meaningful is as a vehicle for a process of normalization between Israel and Gulf states.
European countries such as France, Germany and the United Kingdom strongly object to what they perceive as Iran's destabilizing role in the region. But Europeans have so far resisted the urge to fully embrace the anti-Iran coalition. Europeans should hold fast to this position and look at ways that they can help de-escalate regional tensions before it is too late. While Iran's negative regional behavior poses real challenges, European actors need to resolutely make the case that greater confrontation with Iran will only play to Tehran's strength and further destabilize the Middle East.